You ready?
You good, Michael?
Oh, yeah, really, that's something to tell you.
Is it recording now?
Mr. Wright, can we start?
We are recording.
Go
We're
ahead.
recording? Okay. You're ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Stand back up.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, the Wilmington Area School District, Wilmington Area School Board. Would you please stand for the pledge of allegiance and moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Mrs. Crum, roll call.
Mr. Curry.
Here.
Mr. Dawson.
Here.
Mrs. Foltz.
Here.
Mrs. Harris.
Here.
Mrs. Oakes. Here. Mrs. Phillips.
Here.
Mrs. Riley.
Here.
Mrs. Russo. Here. Mr. Shaker.
Here.
Dr. Maddie.
Here.
Mr. Wright.
Here.
Mr. Bonner.
Here.
Mr. Latour.
Here.
That's it.
Thank you. Tonight we have a presentation. We have a recognition of some of the strongest and fastest people that attend Wilmington area schools or did attend Wilmington area schools, as some have graduated.
Or anywhere else in the state.
Can I say something? Then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Curry.
Yes, you may.
I want to say that it was a true honor to, especially at the end of the year and everything the track team went through. And it was fun to see and enjoyable. I really loved coming to Slippery Rock and see us compete in districts. That was a lot of fun. But I think one thing that we have to recognize is, even though we have great athletes. By the way, I'm happy that Grace Mason finally graduates because she's at more board meetings than most board members. Because she's been here for cross country as well, Grace. So, but I think is we have a tremendous coaching staff. And when you have good coaches and good teachers, that's what makes things really work. And I know the players would say that as well. So congratulations from us and Mr. Wright in the back there. And Mr. Curry has a few comments to give here about this season.
I'm not sure everybody really understands, when it comes to track, things are a little different than they are in most other sports. In football, there are 6 classifications. In basketball, there are 6 classifications. And you can have 6 different teams be state champions. However, when it comes to track, they cut it in half. Now, that makes it exponentially much more difficult to become a state champion. Now, we don't have 6 state champions, we have 2 in each event. Big school, small school. So what these folks accomplished is even more impressive under that circumstance. And certainly we're very thrilled to present Mr. McFarland and his gang of people. They certainly represented Wilmington. The name Wilmington is known throughout the state, everywhere. And these people have added to the quality of our lives and of this district in many ways through their. It didn't come easy either. There's a few miles pounded, there are a few weights lifted. None of that stuff you ever get to see, but you do see the results. So, and you see the character that's built, and you see the quality of coaching. Over the course of, well, since when's track started, Mr. McFarland? 73?
1964, 73 for the women.
Okay, 73 for the girls. We've had 29 state champions. Some schools have 1 or 2 or 3. Not Wilmington. And thanks to the quality of the people we have participating and the quality of the people we have coaching them, the 2 go together, and this is a result. You go up to see the trophy cases, that's another result. They'll be there forever. And your names will be on them forever. So be proud, because we're proud of you. Mr. McFarland, could you introduce, please, your champions? We're thrilled to have them here.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. I want to thank the school board for everything that you've done, also the administration, and Brandy Sanford. I think that's important because, number one, I believe that sports are a very, very important part of the educational system. Number two, I believe it's a privilege to participate in a sport or an extracurricular activity. I don't take it for granted. This year's track team was very successful. The boys and girls won the region. They scored very well at district, each of them placing second, and probably the highlight of the whole season was the state meet. And the reason I say that is because the athletes were able to win 17 medals. When we won the state championship in 2008, we won 8 medals. So that kind of compares. 17 medals is unheard of. But the athletes did a tremendous job. I want to thank our assistant coaches. Our assistant coaches do a phenomenal job, and I mean that. They really care about the athlete. They really care about the sport that they coach. And so tonight we ask the gold medalists to come, and I'll introduce each one of them and say a few words about each one of them. I'm going to start with Connor Vasquel. Connor was our shot discus person for the last 4 years. He was the favorite to win the shot, and he didn't disappoint. He won the shot put handily, and then he moved on to the discus, where he was seated 9th, and he ended up in 2nd place. Connor holds the school record at 66 feet 6 3/4 inches. If you know anything about high school shot, that's a pretty good heat. I think the most notable thing I want to mention is Mr. Curry mentioned there's 2 classifications, only 2 classifications in track and field. To make that even tougher, when they name an all-state team, they only name one. Only one, the whole state. So if you're the number 1 shot putter, you're first team. If you're the number 2 shot putter, you're second team and third team. Connor was first team, which means that he is the best shot putter in the state of Pennsylvania this year. That's all schools, all classifications. So needless to say, Connor's our record holder, first team All-State, and he's also, last I checked, he's in the top 5 in the nation. Connor's going to further his education at Youngstown State University. He has a track scholarship. I feel quite confident that Connor will do very well because he's an extremely hard worker. So we want to wish him the very best. Connor Vasquel. Then we come to the 4x4, and Mr. Curry mentioned that up to this point we had won, meaning the track program, 29 individual state champions. And I'm almost embarrassed to have mentioned this, but
First, before you say, I can't believe this statistic. I said this when you told me, I still don't believe it. Go ahead.
so out of 29 state champions, every one of them was won in the field. We have never had a state champion on the track until this year. So this was a big deal. So the girls obviously made track history here at Wilmington by winning a state championship. And Lindsay Martineau was our first runner, and I'm introducing them in the order that they ran. And Lindsay Martineau, by the way, she had a full day. She started out running the prelims and the hurdles. She made the finals, which is no easy task. She ran the finals a short time later and got 5th place, so she got a medal there. She had a short break, and then she had to run the 4x1, which the girls did not medal, but they did very well. She had a short break, and then she had to come back and run the grueling 300-meter hurdles. Now, if you don't know how grueling it is to run the 300 hurdles, there's enough hurdles out there now that line up 8 around the track and try running them. She was seated 7th, She ended up in second place, and she also smashed the school record by 1 whole second. The record was held by Erica Flynn back in the early 2000s. She took a short break after that, and she came back and she had to run the first leg of the 4x4. I put no pressure on her. I told her I only needed her to run a 62. She had run a 64, 65. Lindsay's objective, I said, your goal is to make sure that you're in the mix when you come around. In other words, I don't want you getting blown out. You don't have to win it, but I want you in the mix. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, she had a slight leg injury in her quad. I just found out on the way down to Shippensburg, so I called Miss Stanford and talked to her about it. And she said, well, the worst that can happen is she can strain the muscle and she'll be out for 2 weeks. Well, Lindsay's a competitor. And we told her she'll be fine. We'll check with you after every event. If there's a problem, we'll pull you. That's not going to happen to Lindsay. But if it's an injury, you're not going to run your best time either. So she runs the first leg of the 4x4. She runs a 61. Puts us in great position. You know, we're about 3rd, 4th place. They're all bunched in. And she hands the baton off to Grace Mason. Now, Grace Mason is Miss Track everything. The reason I say that,
so they can see it. Thank you, Grace.
the reason I say that is because she holds the school record in the 800, 1600, and 3200. She also is the only female or male athlete to qualify for every running event for the District 10 meet. You have to meet a certain time. She qualified in the 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600, 3200, 4x8, 4x1, 4x4. Grace had a busy day. She ran the 4x8, which was seated 10th. They got 6th place. She ran the 4x1. She ran the 800 and got 8th place, ran her best time. She had a short break, and then she had to come back and run the 4x4. Grace's objective, get the lead. Okay, get the lead. I don't care what you have to do, but get the lead. Lindsay handed off to Grace. I couldn't see because I was at the other end of the field, at the scoreboard end, screaming at them when they came around that final bend. But my wife was watching it on television, and she said, you know, Grace took that baton like she was angry. She grabbed that thing, and by the time I saw her, she had cleared the first bend, and she was in 1st place. She achieved her objective.
Were you angry, Grace?
She never gave up the lead. She ran a great race, and she had a 2, 3, 4 yard lead when she handed off to Becca Book. Now, the 3rd runner,
Becca, can you step up so they can see?
the 3rd runner historically
Thank you.
is the slowest runner of the 4. We don't have any slow runners. But Becca, I guess the only way I can describe her is she is a fierce competitor. Once she steps on the track, look out. And so her objective, her goal was to increase the lead. That was her goal. And by the time she got to the backstretch, she increased it by 15, 20 yards. She ran a great leg, and then she handed off to Elizabeth Miles. Elizabeth Miles could not be here tonight. Normally, your last runner, your anchor, runs the fastest, and we knew that Lewisburg, who we were competing against, had a girl that ran a 57. Lizzie Miles ran a 59, and we knew we had to have a lead. And these girls did a great job. Each one of them accomplished their goal. So by the time Lizzie Miles got the baton, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, Lizzie Miles came down with COVID the first week of May. And so we had to quarantine the team. Quite honestly, we didn't know what was going to happen because with COVID, We really don't know what the side effects are, especially when you're running as fast as you can. So Lizzie told me close to the state meet, she said, you know, I still can't taste and I still can't smell. I didn't believe her for a minute, because maybe she couldn't taste, but when Becca gave her the baton, I know she could smell gold. And she took off, ran a great race. The girl from Lewisburg didn't have a chance to catch her, and as a result, the girls broke their school record, which was 4:03, that 3 of these girls were involved in, and they ran a 4:01.95. Needless to say, all these athletes, and all the ones that were on the team this year, I think the thing about them that I always remember is they competed very well. I mean, they competed. They didn't just show up. And these gold medalists did the same thing, obviously, and I was very, very proud all year of their performance, number one. Number two, you would be very proud of that, plus the fact you'd be very proud of the way they handled themselves when they were interviewed. And they got interviewed quite a bit throughout the year. So again, they did a tremendous job, and I'm so proud of them. And now, with the school teacher that's left in me, I have to ask you, are there any questions you have of me or any of these athletes?
I just have to say, you know, as has been said before, we are so proud of you. And there's not many rewards in being on the school board, I can tell you that right now. But you made tonight so rewarding. You people did that, and I thank you. And what a great coach you have with him.
Absolutely, very much so.
Made it look good.
Totally agree.
Well, you know what? I had somebody from Philadelphia send me an email just yesterday, and they were asking me different questions. And, you know, I simply wrote back and said, you know, Wilmington's just very fortunate to have, over the years, outstanding student athletes. They're the ones that do it. So.
Yeah, but they can't do it without outstanding coaches. And you definitely are one of those.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
I was just going to echo that. I coached a lot of years, and a couple, 3 different sports, but mostly in football. And one thing I noticed is that everybody has good athletes somewhere. Throughout the state, no matter what league I was in, the other team, they had some good athletes too. And I coached at different places. The kids are about the same. They wear different color shirts sometimes, but kids are kids. Our ace in the hole, our coaches, and our administrators that allowed them to set the protocols and the procedures that allowed you to compete. That wasn't an easy thing either. So, difficult year, tremendous results. Thank you, Mr. McFarland.
Thank you. One thing before you're done, before we clap for you, because we should. You know, we do have a great coaching staff, but it starts at the top, and I think Mr. McFarland is a competitor. Everybody knows that. My first week I was here as a superintendent 5 years ago. I came from a pretty tough school before, and I'm looking outside, and it's the middle of November, and all I see, suddenly I see 20 kids running down the sidewalk. So I'm thinking, oh my God, they escaped class. No, it's his gym class, his physical education class. So I learned about him right there. But, you know, there's an adage in sports about players being average or good or great. And I think with J.R., it transfers to his athletes, where he makes average athletes good, good averages, good athletes great, and great athletes greater, by his competitiveness and his expectations. And I know all of you are nodding your head because you all agree. And we're lucky to have a coach like you, Coach. So thank you very much. Thank you.
So no offense, but I told them they could leave.
Yes.
It happens all the time.
I need to escort them.
We've never had a
Which makes us even more envious.
Thank you.
Thank you.
lot of gold walking out the
Thank
door.
you. Yeah.
Those are nice, aren't they?
Yes, they
Great
are.
representation. Thank you.
They're really
So
nice.
are you.
Okay. Yep. We have a presentation next on the agenda, health and safety plan timeline.
Good evening, everybody. That's always good to see track. And by the way, they're all really good students and working hard, so that's the best part. So this is just one slide, basically. So last week, we just spoke briefly about some of the things upcoming. Mrs. Russo had asked me a question about summer school, and I had said at the time, well, right now we're looking at things could be the same or whatever based on the information I have now, which was that day. One thing I was fortunate enough to do is last week, we have superintendent's meetings every Wednesday. We've been meeting since March of whenever that began, whenever we were closed down after that. And we mostly make it, but not everybody makes it every week. So we had a discussion, and everybody was in kind of the similar boat about how to handle summer school. Some schools had started summer school already, and they were doing the protocols that we did at the end of the year. But they also had students with masks on. So the question was, what are we going to do in the future here when the state decides to lift the mandate, which is, or lift the, not mandate, to lift the process we've been following for the 2021 school year on June 28th. So that was the discussion. So the people that are already in school said, hey Jeff, we're going to wear them until we get to June 28th, then we're not going to have them wear them, okay? In the meantime, I was working with Mr. Rich on the LCCTC plan because I was the superintendent of record for last year, and I helped him with another plan he had done, and we talked about that. Now, unfortunately, right now, they do a health and safety plan for next year. The VOTECs are a little bit different than regular ed because they're not tied into any money from the federal government or anything. That's a different thing. But he did the plan anyway, and one thing he had on there originally was no mask, and I said, I think it's better if you put on there masks are optional. Because you may have a student with immune problems and or they just want to wear it based on their family situation or their own health. So we talked about that. So what happens now is that June 28th, the state is, you'll see everywhere, unless a business requires you to wear it, like a hospital, for example. That's what that happens. Under the current guidelines, the CDC, for example, only has guidelines for the 2021 school year. Well, the 21-21 school year is basically over, okay? From a fiscal standpoint, we start the school year July 1. So that's usually how you do it and go from there. Our summer camp for elementary kids starts the 6th, thank you. And the high school kids are here now taking some things, catch up online, some credit recovery courses. That's the CDC. PDE, Pennsylvania Department of Ed, does not have any guidelines. One of the bad things about PDE right now is that they had a lot of people retire, and I believe Mr. Ortega, who is the acting head of the Department of Ed, so they have a lot of issues right now with who's in charge and what they're doing. They have no guidelines. The big one is the Pennsylvania Department of Health. And the Department of Health has guidelines, but they end starting June 28th. So the Department of Health is the main one you usually follow in situations of illnesses. For example, measles. If you call them and say, we have a measles outbreak, they'll say, okay, if there are children that didn't get a measles shot, you got to send them home for so long and do that. So that's who you contact. They're the big ones when it comes to this. That being stated, we really don't have any guidance from them yet. So it seems like everybody's waiting and waiting and waiting to decide what is going to happen. So from that perspective, I talked to some other stakeholders. I talked to some teachers. I talked to a guidance counselor. I talked to Mr. Andreezy. I talked to some other fellow administrators. And we thought that it would be best if we give parents the option to wear a mask. Another reason is it's so hot in the building as well. So wearing a mask in the elementary school right now is very difficult for some children because it's so hot. Now, they can wear a shield. And we're still giving that option. I had also spoken to Anna Doherty, who has been a tremendous resource during this time. She's our school nurse at the elementary, if you don't know that. So that being the case, tonight, under the health and safety section, we have a motion to change the health and safety 2.0 plan, which is the plan we had before, to 3.0, which just states in the, below it there, I believe on the board information, that we're going to give parents the option to wear masks. Now, one of the things when I talked to Anna Doherty about, Anna suggested that, and they're already doing this, but that we do have the kids in pods, meaning, you know, this is my group, and this is Mr. Bonner's group, and that way, if you would have an outbreak of something, therefore, you could handle it and not have to cancel the whole program. Now, the other thing is, it goes into this next thing. I also talked about last week briefly about ESSERS. Mr. Latour talked about ESSERS, which is elementary, secondary school emergency relief. How about that? And they have provided us with different monies. There was ESSERS 1, ESSERS 2. ESSERS 3 is $3.9 million. So what the federal government is requiring us to come up with a health and safety plan that's a template provided by PDE, but we can also use our own if we want, but you have to do the certain categories. And what that means is we will look at these categories and make, you know, how do we deal with these issues? Now, when I asked other superintendents about it, the one issue they all said was, well, right now, the key word for them is mandate. So when you fill out this form, for example, it might have masks. They're only going to go with the mask if it's a mandate. Now, certainly, if you had a problem in the school, you know, you might look at doing that. But they're saying they're looking at the mandate as the key word. So, for example, if the CDC said it's so bad everybody has to wear a mask, of course, the Department of Health would say everybody has to wear a mask. That would be a mandate. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Okay. So on July 20th, we're required by ESSERS to get stakeholders' input. Not everybody's doing it the same way. So what we want to do is we want to have the, I don't know why this moved over, but we want to have the stakeholder health and safety meeting at 6 before the board meeting, okay? And have a situation, if anybody would like to comment on, we'll probably post the plan before then, the template at least, and we have to give that to PD by July 30th. Now, it's kind of funny that they're requiring us to have that before they're coming out with any kind of recommendation. But it's a fluid document. It must be reviewed at least every 6 months, but you can review it probably as needed. So we will do that, and then we'll show everybody by the 31st, we have to upload the template, well, not the template, we just have to upload the URL where we have the template. So that's how that works. But for right now, we don't have any information from anybody that talks about the first day of school because they don't know anything. And they haven't provided us any guidance. When you look at everything, it says 2021 school year. So any questions from the board? Yes, ma'am.
So who's included with the stakeholder? When you say stakeholder?
Well, for example, board, parents,
Okay, so that also includes
teachers,
the
whoever.
peers, so they can
Yeah.
come and say.
Right, that's what, yeah. That's why it says
Okay.
publicly advertised.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of schools might just ask a few people.
No, but the point
But what
is,
we do is, we're doing the same way we do
the
Title
public can
I.
come and say their piece too. So
Yeah.
There's always an opening for the public.
It's always been that way.
I understand that, but I
Okay.
want people to.
So
be
Title
able to
I-
have a chance to come.
Title I is the federal program when you receive money for math and English.
Okay.
This is under the E-grants, similar situation to Title
I
I.
understand that, I just.
So,
wanted to-
and I'm telling everybody, so the point is, they may have regulations later that they put in that we have to follow. I don't know. You know, they have strange regulations in Title I for like reading and math, but they haven't said that. So right now, there really are no guidelines to any type of, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's just saying you have to have a plan to maximize mitigation. So you might say, we're gonna use masks if certain things happen. If the Department of Health says use masks, you use masks, that kind of thing.
I have
Okay?
a couple questions.
Yes, ma'am.
One being, so just to reiterate, for summer school that's starting, the
The
children
6th, yeah.
will not have, well, I'm talking elementary anyway.
Yes.
The children will not have to wear a mask or a shield, it's up to,
It's their own parents, yeah.
and how about the staff?
The same thing.
Same thing?
Yeah.
You're giving it open reign?
And here's the thing, and Mr. Varner can answer this, but I don't have the right to tell anybody in the staff they have to wear a mask. You know, I'm assuming, I would recommend to a teacher if they weren't vaccinated to wear a mask, but I'm not mandating it.
You can't tell them because it's.
No, I don't know who got it. I might know some people, obviously, because we did a good job, but I know who was in line with me. So I know, and you know some people, but you don't know everybody, obviously. So we're given that option, yes.
And it's still unclear, if there's no information given to the school districts, then assuming starting school August 30th, we will be the same way we are
Yeah, it could be the same, yes.
doing summer school,
Yeah.
there's nothing that's.
Right, because hopefully, we get to, August 20th and they say, hey, it's pretty much nothing.
My next question is, July 20th is open to the public
Yeah.
to.
Well, it's a board meeting night,
Open
too.
discussion.
Yeah.
It's an hour before the board meeting. So with that being said, the plan will already exist. So the public comments, is that a time where, when would it be looked at for changes or upgrades or anything? If the public is speaking to you in a meeting on July 20th, the board meeting's at 7 PM, July 20th, and we will not re-meet again until
Yeah, we have to
August.
put a URL up there that says where it is, but we can change the plan.
But you have to change it prior to July.
No, well, it has to be posted, but I believe in the language it says, because some people don't have meetings in July.
Okay.
So you have to have it before the first day of school. We could always have another meeting and change that. And that's the one thing about it being July 20th. They could say, you don't have to wear anything, or they could say everybody that's 4 years old or younger, like say maybe you have a daycare program in your building, maybe they say people 4 and under should wear a mask, that kind of thing. Right. Right now, based on, the way I look at it is, they're making a mandate of lifting the masks. If the Department of Health felt that they would publicize something saying that to the effect of any school summer program, they should wear a mask. They haven't done that. They haven't officially said that. They're kind of leaving it alone until they get more information. It sounds that way. That's what everybody's saying. We're waiting on more information, if there's going to be more information. Hopefully they do something that's easy to understand. Does it make sense, the timeline? So we haven't figured out whether we do it in here or somewhere else, and let everybody comment for a couple minutes or 3 minutes or whatever. Once we can put the plan on. If we don't, we'll present the plan and then let people comment on it as well.
Have you gotten any tips or any advice of what's in the plan? Will something make you not get the money?
No.
Not receive the money, or?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I think me and Josh have had big discussions about this. They say you have to have a plan, that's all. So they don't say anything to where the effect is if you don't, like your plan could be, you could say, we're never going to be 6 feet apart. We'll wear a mask if we have to. We'll clean daily. We won't clean on the weekend, something like that. It could be that's fine. The only thing that will happen is if this is all projection. If they had a mandate, the federal government says you have to do it, and then you didn't do it, you may be audited in the future and say, well, why didn't you do it? The feds are a little bit more shaky as those that's been on the board, a long time with money. When you do Title I, Mr. Andresi pulls his hair out all the time because he's doing that and trying to follow regulations. But, Mr. Latour, would you agree? They have right now, it's just to have a plan. No one has said anything about any.
Yeah, they've never said anything about withholding funding at all.
I'm all more conservative with it because
It's on PDE's website. If you go to education.pa.gov
Yeah.
and type in ARP, the whole guidance template and resources, there's a whole page. I'm looking at it right now. It lists everything pretty much.
like physical distancing.
It shows what the plan has to be, what's included.
But remember now, a lot of schools around here have all been to school. This may be a first school that's never been to school when they started that template also.
But this is just for ESER 3 money.
Yeah, right.
This isn't about this, yeah, this is
Right.
just ESER.
No, I'm saying there might have been some that never had that template in certain states or whatever, you know. So, right now, we have no guidelines that say anything but that. So the key is to have a plan, and we'll work with the solicitor on the language for that, and go from there. Any other questions? So we'll certainly, we'll have Mr. Andresi, Ms. Cavarinos here tonight to get the word out, if we pass that tonight, that they can have that option. Okay? All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Wright, you mind taking care of business? It's your thumb drive.
We can just do it at the end of the meeting if you want.
What's that?
We can just do it at the end of the meeting.
Oh, thank you. No, whatever, it's fine. I thought they...
Next, we have the patrons' public comment session. To speak at the school board meeting, the Wilmington Area School Board welcomes residents of the district and commends you for attending the meeting. This is tiny print, excuse me. We also gladly invite your comments and questions. During the initial public participation session at the beginning of the meeting, local residents who would like to address the board will be invited to approach the board. You will ask to state your name and address and may speak for up to 3 minutes. This public participation session is normally limited to about 45 minutes. Prior to adjournment at the end of the meeting, residents will be offered another opportunity to pose questions on items that might have come up during the meeting itself. These comments will likewise be limited to 3 minutes. The board may respond immediately to general questions or comments if appropriate, but will often instruct the superintendent or the business manager to do further research and report back to the board and the resident. If you have specific questions, the board will try its best to respond either at the meeting or shortly thereafter. And I could went goofy again. Oh, no, but I want. Just drives me nuts when it does this. Okay. The board wants to ensure that it is fully informed before responding, and so if your questions are not addressed immediately, this does not indicate a lack of interest on the board's part. Finally, to protect rights to privacy, the board cannot respond to complaints or comments about specific individuals, employees, or students in public session. And we have one patron signed up, Christine Buckwalter.
Yes. Sorry, I need my glasses, I can't see. It's hard to get old. Thanks for letting me address the board. Dr. Matty, that was a great explanation. Thank you.
I tried.
Thank you.
There's not a lot of guidance with this stuff.
I wanted to speak because I noticed today that the acting PA Education Secretary said that ESSER funds will not be denied for any school district that chooses to stray from the CDC masking guidelines.
Good.
That was on a meeting a couple hours ago that was live streamed.
Yeah, they don't always send it to us directly.
Yeah. The main reason I wanted to speak, you already addressed, the fact that parents are in the community is allowed to address and give their input on any LEA plan for return to school. I'm sure you all know, most of us parents here tonight anyways, our opinions on the masking for our kids in the school. So I wanted to be able to share my input on that with the board. I realize the decision won't be made until July, and that's a fluid decision, as you said.
Yes.
I appreciate you allowing us to give our opinions on that. Our kids are excited to be back. It was a good end of the school year. I'm hopeful with the new CDC guidelines that start the 28th, lifting the masking mandate, that we'll be able to move forward with that with our school. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item is the approval of tonight's agenda. I need a motion for the approval. Mr. Baker, second.
Second.
Mrs. Phillips. Are there any questions on the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Meeting minutes of the work session on May the 18th and the regular session on May the 25th, 2021. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Shanker, second.
Second.
Mrs. Harris. Are there any questions on the minutes? Any mistakes, any misspellings, anything? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We did not meet in executive session tonight before the meeting. So, board operations, that's me. We do have an item on the agenda this evening, which is pretty important. Has to do with buildings and grounds. And, well, it's supposed to be.
Cancellations of meetings. Everybody's looking at Julie. We're head of the Buildings and Grounds Committee.
No,
It's this one right here, see? Right here.
yeah. Well, that's the big item. No, not that one. That's
You
not
said
what
under
I'm
board's
talking about.
operations.
No, I know, but.
Oh, okay,
under-
I'm sorry.
As
We're all
part
confused.
of the board operations, and one of the big items that we need to really think about going forward is on the agenda tonight, but it's buildings, grounds, and securities. It's the
That's why,
HVAC and
that's what everybody was
improvements.
confused.
Yes, and
Okay,
I
sorry.
understand that. It's just like, I was
We
like,
thought the
did you
iPad
take
threw
it
you
off
off.
the agenda?
No, we thought the iPad was.
No, no, that's what
sorry.
I wanted to go over, was the fact that the big project that we are considering is on the agenda this evening. District long and short-term goals. We will be discussing some of those at the July meeting.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And then C, cancellation of meeting. Yeah. I need a motion to approve to cancel the July 27th, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
So are there any questions about why we're canceling that meeting? It's always a tentative one to begin with. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, PSBA update. I sent another letter to Senator Vogel on the revised Senate Bill 1. I also called Senator Brooks's office and thanked her for her no vote in committee, and then told her to stay strong and keep a no on Senate Bill 1. I have not heard back from either of those offices. I know they are in budget talks, and but Senate Bill 1 is not dead, neither is the Senate Bill 733. The adjustments they made to Senate Bill 1 aren't enough to say, yes, we should agree that this is a good thing. The charter school adjustments weren't significant enough to make a difference, and so PSBA is on this. So keep watching for those alerts in your email. I know that Ms. Caparino also contacted, which?
Both of them.
Both offices.
Brooks
And thank you, because you have the broadest base of knowledge in that area at this point in time. So I appreciated that very much. Thank you. As I said, they are in budget negotiations. It'll start moving pretty quickly, the closer they get to their deadline, and hopefully we won't get a whole bunch of garbage stuff, but it does concern me what they throw into the school code every year. Sometimes if they can't get legislation passed, they'll put it in the school code, which to me is an end run, because that runs around us being able to comment on this stuff. So we'll just have to keep our ears to the ground and hope that Senate Bill 1 never goes through, ever. So that's the update from PSBA. Policy, Mr. Dawson?
There's no report tonight from the policy committee.
All right, thank you. All right, and we have the adoption of the Health and Safety Plan 2.0, 3.0, 2.0 to 3.0, excuse me. Health and Safety Plan 2.0 to 3.0 changes for June 22nd, 2021. Change of language that states masks and face coverings are optional as of June 28th, 2021. Who would like to make that motion? And you can just say that's my motion. So moved. Mrs. Oaks. Second?
Second.
Mrs. Phillips. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay.
Dr. May, this includes what you just talked about, right? Right? The health?
That's what I'm talking about, the
And
mask.
I just wanted to say thank you for your clarification.
Oh, no, it's
Well-
not a clear, it's a very difficult, as Mrs. Buckwater stated.
Well, I just want
It's
to
hard to
say,
make
I
it
think,
clear to people
I
with
think
so
that
many.
helped.
Yeah, it does
Some
help.
who didn't understand,
No.
understood a little bit better.
No, I agree, it's very difficult,
So I'm
so
just
thank
saying,
you.
touche.
Touche. Thank you very much. It's not an easy thing to do.
No,
Thank
it's
you.
not.
That's French.
Okay. Moving on to budget and finance. Mr. Schenker, would you like to group a few of those items under a consent?
Yeah. Motion to approve items B through F.
Okay.
Start.
And do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Mrs. Oaks. Are there any questions on items B through F?
I have a question.
Okay?
I got paid a couple of bucks for announcing track meets.
Okay.
Do I need to abstain from all of these motions or what?
Since it's a consent. Which set of payments then? General
D,
fund?
under D, I announced, the track meets
General fund.
D.
D.
and received a,
No, I don't think you're gonna be
okay.
violating any laws.
No.
You've disclosed in your,
My new Cadillac is okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so, wait a minute.
Me through it.
Yeah, that's, I was just checking. All right, so we have a motion and a second for items B through F. Are there any other questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. G, the financial report, informational. We went over that last week. Credit card payments, informational as well. The Amazon payment register is informational. Then we come to the biggie, the 2021-2022 final budget. Could I have a motion for approval?
So big, it won't stay on my page.
So moved.
Mr. Curry, second.
Second.
Mrs. Phillips. Mr. Latour, would you like to review the changes that were made between what we had and what we have now from the preliminary?
Yeah, the changes that were made reflect our actual Title I allocations that we were notified of after the initial budget was proposed, as well as some changes in district hospitalization coverage that people made during the open enrollment period from May 15th to June 15th.
And could you explain what happened with the Title I allocations? That they went
It got cut.
down?
Yeah.
Approximately how many, from what to what, do you have?
Overall, it was $38,000, $40,000, but we had budgeted for the increase, so it was double that amount, about 80, it was about 86,000.
So that was most of the revised, the final budget.
A good bulk.
Yeah. deficit.
You never know what you're gonna get until they send it out.
No, and this is it's a long shot for me.
Okay. If, Mr. Curry, would you please read the motion in full? Please.
Want me to read it?
Motion to adopt the 2021-2022 final budget in the amount of $21,270,509 and to reenact per capita tax of $5 over $10 under Act 511 and to reenact the per capita tax under Section 679 of the School Code at $5. Occupational privilege tax, local service tax at $10 on 2,000 of income. Earned income tax at 1%, 1/2 for school purposes, and realty transfer tax at 1%, 1/2 for school purposes. The real estate millage shall be set at 15.748 mils or $1.5748 per $100 of assessed valuation in Lawrence County and 65.778 mils or $6.5778 per $100 of assessed valuation in Mercer County. BDE 2028 attached.
And we have a second. Are there any questions?
Josh, will the tax cards be going out soon?
Yeah, they'll be notified tomorrow, they'll be set the mail for that. Probably you won't get them until July 5th, if they go out, but yeah, if they may be out in courts next Thursday, Friday.
Okay, thank you.
This is also the 4th year of this millage rate, correct?
No, this is the third year.
3rd year.
Yeah, third
I
year.
believe that's right.
There's just been one millage increase in the last 5 years.
Yes, ma'am.
One in the last 5. Thank you. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Homestead Farmstead Exclusion Resolution.
Motion to approve the attached 2021-2022 Homestead and Farmstead Exclusion Resolution. The exclusion amount for Lawrence County will be $9,973. The exclusion amount for Mercer County will be $2,388. Both exclusions equates to $157.85.
And a second on the motion.
Second?
Mrs. Phillips. Are there any questions on this motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Budgetary transfers.
Motion the screen keeps going on.
What's this? Good one, actually.
I think I got it. Motion to authorize the business manager to make necessary budgetary transfers to offset any audit adjustments and any deficit line items within the budget for the 2021-2022 school year. These transfers being reported to the board at a subsequent meeting.
And a second on the motion.
Second?
Mr. Dawson? Are there any questions on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next item.
Motion to approve the attached addendum for the Kelly Educational Staffing Contract for the 2021-2022 school year. This addendum will increase the pay rate for day-to-day subs from $90 to $95 per day.
And a second.
Second.
Mrs. Riley. Are there any questions on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The agreement with interim healthcare.
Motion to approve the attached agreements between Wilmington Area School District and interim healthcare for skilled nursing services for the 2021-2022 school year.
Okay, and a second.
Second.
Mrs. Riley. Are there any questions on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Bid acceptance for repository property.
Motion to approve the bid of Pearl Niman, $250 for 395 Poplar Drive, Glasgow Township, property ID 29-903583.
And a second.
Second.
Mrs. Harris. Are there any questions on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Assessment appeal settlement.
Motion to approve the attached assessment appeal settlement with Paul Lynch Investments, property located at 115 East Michigan Drive.
In a second,
Second.
Mrs. Riley. Any questions on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, academic and curriculum report, Mrs. Phillips.
All right, good evening, everybody. We will start with field trips and fundraisers. And soccer will be up first. Under soccer fundraisers, I have lanyards and soccer sponsor. Can I put that all in one?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Yep,
I knew that.
and the golf, yep.
And soccer concessions and soccer camp and golf outing and a fundraiser form. I also, maybe it's because I'm so diligent, I had 2 football things. I'll do that separate if you want me to.
They're all attached as one item.
Okay, and 2 football
Do we have a
fundraisers.
outing.
That's the golf one, yeah.
Oh, yes.
They are for football, but they're golf
gotcha.
outings.
It's not golf, it's golf outing for football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have them all right here,
Good.
diligent woman that I am. So I would like to make, I would like to make a motion to approve the attached fundraisers and field trips.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
And Mrs. Russo, a second. Are there any questions on any of these items? Other than that football is the one for the golf.
Thank you for that clarification.
All
We're
those in
such good
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I was trying to figure that one out, I kept doing it. And then will we also do the Cray?
No, additional
Yeah,
Title
the
I.
Title I.
You see that now? C.
Okay. Then I'll go back and do that. Here we go. Additional Title I summer school staffing. I would, a motion to approve the additional Title I summer school staff. I do not like to do names, I always.
Do you want me to do?
John
Savick.
Savick.
and Madeline Murphy and Jody Steyer and Leslie Fletcher, and all paperwork and clearances are on file.
And a second.
Second.
Mrs. Russo. Are there any questions on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
Mrs.
passes.
Pope. I interrupt for a moment. I'm a little bit behind you on this. I was approached about a possible fundraiser for, pardon me to go backwards a little bit,
Okay.
for girls softball. And a couple of ideas were floated, but they tend to be in conflict with our football boosters and some of the other things. So just throwing it out there, folks. If you have some ideas, we're looking for some help for girls softball, for fundraisers. If you have something, it's not gonna detract from something else, we'll be happy to hear about it. We're looking for some ideas.
Are they looking to sell something, you mean, or raise
The
money?
goal is to get more money.
I didn't know if they
Whatever
wanted
we
to
gotta-
sell something or if they wanted to have an
Whatever they
event.
wanna do, yeah, sure,
I think they do some things, but they're looking for new ideas.
they floated the idea of, at football games, having like a separate area where you could get some pierogies and Olush, which they don't sell at the concession, which sounds good, but from a football booster, I'm a little bit crabby about someone taking my pizza money to buy a pierogi. So that's gonna be it's hard to do this without a conflict somewhere along the line. So we're kind of looking for ideas. You have something very open. There's only one goal. We need somewhere new softballs, I guess. I don't know. But there's a lot of stuff they could do.
They
have some ideas.
raise some good money, but they want to do more. So.
Excuse me, say that again?
I said they do raise money, they just want to do more.
Well, everybody wants more. If you know somebody who doesn't want more money, please send them to me. I got work for them to do. So,
Thank you, Mr.
all right, sorry to interrupt there.
No, that's okay. Craig?
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Motion.
I would like to, for our CRAE agreement, our 2021-2022 CRAE agreement, motion to approve the attached agreement between the Wilmington Area School District and CRAE Youth and Family Services for the 2021-2022 school year.
And a second.
Second.
Mrs. Riley. Are there any questions about this?
Are we required in any way that we have to purchase any spots?
They ask us to purchase because if not, we may not have that option later. They do it for their budgeting purposes. For example, when I first came to the school district, I believe we had 4 spots. I've cut that down in myself talking to administrators and this sort of. If you don't budget them, you probably won't have any spots if you don't at least purchase 1 or 2 initially. 2 is usually something you will utilize sometime during the year. But if you don't buy any, you'd have to possibly buy them from somebody else, but you don't know what kind of year it's going to be and if they're going to have and that kind of thing. So it's kind of difficult. They use it for their budgeting. One of the difficulties here in Lawrence County, and Mr. Wright will attest to this, there aren't many alternative education placements in this area compared to, say, the South Hills. For some reason, I don't understand, but there aren't many. So if you don't make it with CRAE, Michael, would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely fewer options here.
Mr. Bonner agrees to every mic in the room, but yeah, there aren't many options, so that's why we are proactive and we usually have 2.
Because of Mr. Curry talking about LCCTC for so many years, I made an appointment there a month ago, and I went and I took a tour. I spent a few hours talking with their administration.
Sure.
And they said that they do have a program in their school that is an alternate for students to go to.
Yeah, that is an option. However, when you're dealing with unknown entities, for example, more violent offenders, you need different than that program. If you have that, you may not have a violent offender, I'm just using that as an example.
If we don't need those 2, then can we not work with another school?
Yeah, I believe the year before we must have sold one, or a
That's
couple
right.
years
Then
ago
we
we
can.
did, when we had 4 of them. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, that there was only one time that I can remember that we had excess.
Yes, yeah. Actually, there was too many, and I said, hey, we don't need 4.
Yeah.
So that's what
I remember the year we used all 6,
Yeah.
let's wait.
and that was
Long
not
ago.
good.
But that isn't they do have an option, and that could be another option for us. Especially if we have more.
I don't like the idea of buying the spots ahead of time. I just don't like the way that sits. And I'd rather see the money go to preventative programs so you never have to send a student to Cray.
Well, if you have a person bring a weapon to school, then what do you do with that person? You know, that's a more difficult, just being honest with everybody, I mean, that's a more difficult pill to swallow. Or if you have someone physically abuse another student, beat them, you know, I hate this, I mean, doesn't happen here much, but I mean, I've seen it, so you have to have places for people to go, unfortunately. Now, that doesn't mean they couldn't be incarcerated and go to a different type of placement, but, you know, so that's the difficulty where it's not easy, I don't disagree with you.
Well, during your time here,
Yes.
have we used every spot every year?
I think it was the one year we didn't use the 4, so I said we're using too many, so I said let's cut it down to 2. Yeah, and Mr. Wright, we've basically used the 2. Now, you might have someone down there for a while, right, and then they leave, and then later on in the year, somebody else. So you might have a couple months where you don't use one, but.
Are parents able to decide whether they go through the Cray program or they do at-home learning? Not at-home learning, but
It depends.
a homeschool?
Yeah, we've done that some, like this year a little bit, I believe we did that. A lot has to do with availability and what the whatever caused them not to be at the school anymore.
The nature of the offense.
Yes, that's a good term, yeah. So that would great. I mean, fortunately, we do not have a ton of those situations, but every once in a while you may, and you have to have some options. Often, since I've been here, what I remember is we sometimes get students from other schools that are already there as well. So the placement, they may have been there already, and then they may move into the district. So you may keep them in there at that time.
I've always thought there was a mental health component to Cray.
Can be.
Is there, I mean, this is something that.
Mr. Wright, we fill out that, and they do that nowadays, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, we fill that out in your mental health components.
So it's not just like, you know, you're kicked out of this school, so you can go home and.
No, and that's
learn.
a big thing.
There's a
for-
mental health component you're going down there.
Right, and that's a big part of it also. Often it's been pretty successful, to be honest with you, what I've seen.
The 2 examples you gave there, the violence and bringing the weapon to school, at that point, wouldn't the courts be involved? And did
Yeah,
they
the courts-
mandate them?
They don't always mandate, sometimes they don't. Well, Mr. Bonner has probably handled some of these cases other places. They may say go somewhere else, but they may say it's up to us to find a place for you too. It just depends. It's not that cut and dry, that's the issue. But these aren't just necessarily violent things. This is, you know, students that maybe have never really been able to function in a regular school.
There's kids across the spectrum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop in here too. I am also gonna tell you, it can be, and you may not be able to understand it, but it can be a parent like you and I who have a child that just cannot handle things physically and mentally. And if I were a parent and I couldn't handle things and I were able to work together with the school system and have a safe place to put my child, not that I would think at this point that that place would be a safe place, but it may be considering the situation. I would be thankful it was there than not to have anything, because I've been working with mental health, and I know it's heartbreaking, and if you're not in that situation, you can't possibly understand, but going down from 4 to 2, and we've used those 2 places, or those 2 spots, my heart's right out of my chest, but I know how important it would be to be able to have at least a possibility of a.
Mrs. Oaks, one of the things, I don't know if Lawrence County's ever done it, but Washington County had a pretty strong program of kind of like a probation for first-time offenders, and they would stay in school and they would come in and monitor them. That was a very successful program. I don't believe we have that option, but that's kind of what you're talking about. You know, they go to a place after school, they do homework, they do physical activity. It's a positive thing, but I don't believe we have that option.
Merging back into the school system.
We don't have that option
Right.
here right now in Lawrence County, so it could be something
School
that
can
definitely
only
be
do so
positive.
much.
Yes.
It sounds like an insurance policy of sorts, that whenever the situation arises, and there can be quite a variety of them, they're not all violent, they're
So you have a lot of transient students.
Transient
that
students,
go
yeah.
different places.
So you have to have an option, and if you don't, then what do you do?
Well, you have to pay extra.
You're gonna pay more somewhere else, or some other arrangement,
Or from another school.
for another
Yeah.
school, right?
If they have,
If they don't have
here.
they don't have the space,
Yeah. What happens if a kid from a different district is at our school due to FFA or one of our programs and they mess up, so to speak? Do
Usually
we
when we
eat that or
have,
do they
we
eat
have
that?
students that have issues with their FFA, they could be sent back to their other school.
So they
But
get
we-
sent back, we don't have to eat one of our spots, is what I'm trying to say.
No, unless we feel that we want that student to stay. Like you could say, well, we need you to go down there for the rest of the year for 2 weeks. That's a little different than that.
Could I just add on word in support of Mrs. Oaks here? I think that you can't spend too much time and energy on preventative measures. But I have worked with adolescents since 1967 and beyond, strictly, and through teaching and coaching. No matter what preventative measures you have in place, you're dealing with volatile situations and volatile personalities and emotions, and you're best friends 1 minute and there's a physical conflict in a moment. And sometimes the best preventative measures you can get simply don't work. And you need this alternative to protect not only the actor, but sometimes the victim as well. And you need these places, and society doesn't provide great options for us. But you're right, Julie, there's nothing should be spared on the preventative end. But they don't always work.
Craig was always the district's go-to if we had a situation in an expulsion
What's the
hearing
police?
that the administration and teachers, even the parents in the expulsion hearing would agree to, because it was a safe place. It was designed, the people that work there are specialists. They understand these kids. They work with them. And I do remember a time when we used 6 slots and had to go look for one other. We had a couple bad years in a row where we had quite a few expulsion hearings. We haven't had one. A lot of you on this board have not experienced that. It isn't very pleasant, and it's very sad. So Craig allows the administration a safe place to deal with some of these children who, for whatever reason, have acted out and simply can't remain in the regular educational setting. So it is well worth its money. I worry about only having 2 slots. Not that I would want anything to happen, I don't, but it is definitely a good operation and one that we should continue, so.
I do think, if I recall, that parents have been very supportive of sending their children there.
Mhm.
I don't recall having a parent say, no, my son or daughter is not going to play. Can you remember, I mean, has that happened?
You can also utilize this to prevent having expulsion.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes.
Sounds like the
You can do-
lack of expulsion hearings might be
Can be
because the
both.
parents found that as an acceptable option,
As long as we would as well.
Right.
which
Yeah,
sounds
that's
like a lot better outcome than
That is,
expulsion hearings.
that is better, yes.
It's been a while since we had an expulsion hearing.
Yes,
Keep talking.
yes. Yeah, good thing. Yeah, maybe we should take the vote on this
Yeah,
and
let's
move
vote.
on so that we don't
Thank
jinx
you,
ourselves.
Julie, for creating that conversation, because that was important.
Yeah. Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes 8-1. Lawrence County CTC update, Mrs. Phillips.
Our last meeting was last Thursday, and we did exactly what we did today. We went through, well, in Mark's section, we went through all budget, and that was about all we got through. So I really don't have much to report this time, which is surprising.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, you
I think the LCCTC is doing some good things. I was the superintendent of record, and that's finished. And Mrs. Phillips always brings a great deal of enthusiasm to those meetings, as you would expect. Congratulations on that. But, you know, they're continuing to do some things and try to give, hopefully the state gives a little bit more money to vocational education, which is what things Mr. Rich always talks about, obviously. Right now, they're not seeing any ESSERS money, ESSERS 3. They're hoping they change that and see some of that. So we'll see if that happens and go from there. Mrs. Kayazin knows herself.
You have to say,
Yeah, so.
things that you
But it's
do.
always a money thing, because you can't save any money. You have to have a balanced budget. You can't have any kind of fund balance. That makes it difficult, in my opinion.
Well, and Dr. Meddy was honored.
Yes, like a student of the week or whatever they call
Not
it.
student of the
Item of promise.
Thanks, yeah. So that was nice. Well, they do that for everybody that
Got a
shows up.
cup and a
does it, yeah.
certificate.
Yes, Mr. Rich. So I work well with Mr. Rich, so we want to continue things.
And they did also talk about the health and
Yeah, he
safety
did that in
plans.
case
That
it does
probably
change,
was
there's a
the big
plan in
thing.
place.
So they're going through the same thing we are.
Right, everybody. is.
Everybody is.
But he's doing it in case they do give money, which
Right.
you never know. Right. So that's, I wanted to comment on that, thank you.
Who will be the new superintendent of record?
It rotates schools, so before me was Union, I don't know the next, I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know the rotation.
Elwood City.
Is it Elwood?
Yeah.
I was thinking Elwood or Newcastle, one or the other. Thank you. Yeah, Elwood. And he's very qualified, so he'll be good. Athletics.
Athletic and athletic facilities report, Mr. Curry.
Okay, just to add on to what Mr. McFarland already said, we had an extremely successful spring season with all three sports, the track, boys and girls, the softball, and the baseball, both all winning district champion or region championships. Thanks especially to administration and Dr. Matty for setting protocols and procedures in place that allowed us to work with the coaches.
We don't have to do it anymore.
To work with the coaches, all cooperated, you all worked all together, and we got seasons in. You can't make up seasons. They're gone, they're gone. As we found out already. And we got them in this year, and it wasn't easy. But the coaches, everybody cooperated. So much more can be accomplished when you're all pulling the same oars in the same direction. And so thanks again to Dr. Matty and administration for that effort. Look out on our fields almost any day. You'll see kids, and you'll see kids getting ready for next year. And the reason these ones are sitting here this year is because they worked out last year. And so it continues.
And they didn't have a season last year.
And they didn't even have a season
Yeah,
last
so
year.
that's amazing.
So what they this was the phoenix that came out of the ashes
Yeah.
this year and flew. So great effort this year, and drive by our school sometime and you'll see kids on the athletic fields. Guess what? They're working on it for next year. And other teams are sitting there in the fall saying, how come we can never beat these people? Well, it's because they're out there in June. That's why. That's my report.
Okay, we have some motions there for you.
Oh.
If you would like to take them. We have a
Sure.
Learning volleyball coach resignation.
Yeah, well, that's a big one. Motion to accept the resignation of the 7th and 8th grade volleyball coach, Amber Merritt, effective May 19th, retroactive, 2021.
And a second.
Second.
Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion to approve Justin Hartwig and Kalen Bender as volunteer football coach, starting with the 2021-2022 school year. All paperwork and clearances on file. Just as a footnote here, the name Justin Hartwig might be familiar to some of you. He started at center for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's volunteering to help us. So I recommend we approve him.
Does he know anything about the
Motion,
game?
second by
Does
Mrs.
he know?
Baker. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Motion to approve Madeline Murphy and Renee Lego as assistant volleyball coach. All paperwork and clearances on file. Starting salary will be $1,250 each.
All right, and a second?
Second.
Mrs. Harris.
Oh, okay.
Are any questions on the motion? The starting salary is actually a split of the
Yes, ma'am.
position salary. Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Motion to approve Jennifer Black as volunteer volleyball coach. All paperwork and the clearances on file.
And a second.
Second.
Mrs. Harris. Are there any questions on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, buildings, grounds, and security. Mrs. Oaks.
I don't have a report this week because I gave it last week, but that's okay because we have a lot to get through tonight. Parking lot sealing. Motion to approve the quote from M&D Paving and Seal Coating Incorporated for sealing of the elementary and pit parking lots as well as repairs to the lots around the track. The total price is $15,236.
And do I have a second on the motion?
Second. Go ahead.
Mrs. Harris. Are there any questions on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Motion to allow the administration in conjunction with HHSDR to begin the process to upgrade and enhance our heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems. A cost estimate for the project is attached. The funding for this project will come from ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 federal code related funding.
Second.
Are there any questions on this motion? HHSDR is the architect's firm,
Yes, sir. Ma'am.
in case you don't know. No questions?
The ESSER money that we're talking about, we already received the ESSER 3 money.
No, we have not.
So we're saying that we're going to pay for it with funds that we haven't received yet?
They're allocated, we just have to submit the budget.
Oh, okay.
After ESSER 3, along with the health and safety plan, we have to have a meeting, kind of like title, and have another stakeholder meeting to go over, a public meeting to go over what we're going to use it for ESSER 3, before we actually apply for the funds. We'd like to do that this summer, but one of the uses in both ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 is building improvements for HVAC.
So you're
Earmarking,
we're getting it though? 'cause
we are getting it,
approved
yes,
this.
yes, we are getting
Yes.
it. And this approval just allows us to start the process, better numbers, drawings, things like that, the early development. They'll still come back with timeline that we'll approve to go out to bid, and then ultimately, up until we receive bids, we can always reject bids at the last minute. So this doesn't really allocate us into the project right now, just to start the
Who gets the ball rolling?
Are we okay to do this prior to that stakeholder meeting?
This is to get numbers.
Yes.
Okay. But we have to pay for it, I mean, we have to pay HHS.
Yeah, in either way, I mean, ultimately, we have the stakeholder meetings, but ultimately, we're gonna put this in the grant zone.
Do you have any idea what the timeline is for something like this until we
If we start now, my thoughts are we would advertise end of the year, award probably early next year. If not, probably early next year, January. And then construction, or whatever we decide to do, would start probably next summer, and then flow through the start of school, probably afternoon turns, depending on where we're at and what they can do.
Any other questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, fencing repairs and additions.
Motion to approve the quote from G&J Fencing in the amount of $7,000 for the repair and addition of fencing at the football stadium, softball, and baseball fields.
All right, and a second?
Second.
Mrs. Harris. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Track resurfacing and repair.
Motion to approve the bid from AstroTurf Corporation in the amount of $111,453 for the resurfacing and repair of the district track.
And second,
Second.
Mrs. Harris. And Mr. Latour, could you explain where this money, the $111,453, is coming from?
This will come from the 2019 bond proceeds that we still have left after the finished maintenance building will be done.
So are those bond receipts now part of our fund balance? Are they reflected in
They've
the
always
fund
been
balance?
part of the fund balance
So,
as restricted.
as restricted?
Yes.
Okay.
Josh.
So when we take this money out of that, what's that do to our, I mean, I understand it comes out of the restricted, but in our total fund balance?
It reduces it, but when I give my numbers for fund balance, it's always net of restricted. It's
Okay.
actually what's available to us.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
If that's what, yeah,
that
those
answers
numbers.
the question.
Could I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Latour, would you say that this repair and resurfacing is necessary because of any particular reason, or is this just normal wear and tear? Why are we having to do these repairs?
We're at the point now where we're going to lose the track. It's been neglected for years.
Okay, now I got that
Yeah.
part. I got the part that it's necessary. Now the question is why it's necessary. In other words, should there have been some preventative maintenance
Well, it could have been, it could have been sealed.
several years ago?
Yeah, it could have been sealed. There were some issues that just been let go over the years.
So several years ago, this should have been taken care of.
It could have been.
That's what I thought.
What's the life, how long has this been installed? Is this the original?
The field,
No, the AstroTurf.
or the
Track.
track.
Track, yeah, track surface. Is that original?
I'm guessing it was probably when the artificial turf was originally installed.
Correct, that would be the original.
So
Yeah, that was
I don't know.
under a different regime, wasn't it?
05?
I have no idea.
05?
Maybe a
I'm
little
trying to think
later
of
than
on.
07 maybe.
Well,
That's what I thought.
that's, because my question's similar.
It wasn't sealed at that time.
Right. Is there anything that we should do anticipating, the same question Bob was asking, appropriate maintenance of it in the next 5 years?
You have to seal and like you would, like, it's not the same sealing as blacktop, but it has, you have to have some kind of program. Just like we started with the parking lots. It's like a parking lot that doesn't go sealed. So it's a crack, you're gonna lose it,
Yeah, you got so much.
and then you're
water.
gonna have to replace it.
Right.
So we will do the preventative maintenance that should have been done years ago.
Well, we know how
On the new,
maintenance
on the new
stuff.
installation, you're planning on doing this,
Yes.
Yeah, there's cracks that are there that are just, yeah.
so those get repaired, the new surface gets put down, and then
They
we're gonna
repair the
pay attention to it.
surface, and then with this company, go with recommended maintenance.
But we haven't done that, if it's since 2007, it stood up without too much money put into it. You know, I think that needs to be said.
We're just not
Yeah, I don't know
sure
when
of
it
the
was.
date.
I wasn't here. I know from my own experiences that tracks are very sensitive and they do go quickly if you don't make the payment. So hopefully this will help for a long time. They seem to be worse than any other service like a defibrillator or something else.
Yeah, I assume you have to maintain and replace it periodically, so.
How long are we anticipating this to last then, or is there any anticipation of normal?
The warranty on the work is 3 years.
I hope you at least get 6 out of it.
Like 3, you're here 3 more.
I'd like
You
the
have
5
3.
at least, right? Yeah. Because you're going to have a field to deal with eventually too.
The field's going to be due probably within the next 4 years, maybe 3. Same with the lights at the football field.
Yeah, because you mentioned the light standards are an issue on the home side, right?
Yeah, you got a couple big things.
You can see those lights in Notre Dame.
Yeah, I noticed it.
They're that big,
We just
that tall.
finished the audio system, right?
They're in the process of.
They're
In the
waiting for it to
process.
come in, yeah. You
But
would
the
hope
lights,
5 years.
yeah, the lights have gone early because of lack of maintenance as well.
Frustrating. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Mrs. Riley, personnel.
I have nothing to report on the committee.
We do have a rescinding of a motion under item B.
A motion is requested to rescind the motion relating to the inclusion of the position of Dean of Students as part of the Act 93 plan for certified supervisory employees, which was adopted at our March meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. This is
Any
Rod.
opposed?
Yes.
Done. Ms. Riley, I just wanted to say that your committee was successful. I have heard nothing but very, very high praise on the new maintenance man that we hired.
Oh, thank you. Good.
Congratulations on your hire. It was extremely successful. Thank you.
Okay, certified administrative personnel compensation plan, item C. Mrs. Riley?
Motion to approve attached compensation plan for the certificated administrative personnel for the years July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022.
And a second.
Second.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, non-supervisory Act 93 compensation plan.
Motion to approve the attached non-supervisory Act 93 compensation plan for the years July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2024.
And a second.
Second.
Mrs. Oaks.
She won that.
Are there any questions on this motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And item E.
Motion to approve the guidance secretary to be a full-time 210-day position effective July 1st, 2021.
And a second.
Second.
Mrs. Harris. Are there any questions on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on, transportation. Let's see, who haven't we heard from a lot? Mr. Dawson, would you like to take the transportation motion?
Oh, it's so long. I make a motion to approve the attached fuel pricing contract extension for the 2021-2022 school year with Reed Oil Company. This contract covers fuel delivery to Chris Transportation.
And do I have a second?
Second.
That assumes we can just pull over to the pump anytime.
That would be nice.
It's part of
Are
our-
there any questions on the motion?
part of our business.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We have no new business. And
Patrons.
no, I don't believe so. Do we have any new patrons?
I just have a
Mrs.
question. Yes.
Would you
Last.
like to, would you add her name,
Go ahead,
please,
go ahead.
as a patron?
Oh, okay, yeah, I came in late, sorry.
All right,
I
thank
had a question regarding last week with the ESSER's template. You spoke about helping to disseminate vaccines. Has that changed as well as the mask?
No, that's one of the things on the plan
Correct.
that they have. When we talked about it, for example, VOTEC, all it is to give information about vaccines unless you want to host a vaccine distribution center.
Okay, are
it's
we
more-
planning on doing?
No, we're not
Okay.
planning on that now. The point is, you'll just provide information. If someone wants to get a vaccine, they might come down to the nurse and say, where would I get a vaccine? You call the nurse, she says, well, I know these places. That's what that means. So you put in the plan, we provide information to any parents, what parents wanting their children to get a vaccine. That would suffice under the template.
Okay. And in terms of Director of Educational Services,
Yes.
is that similar to a Dean of Students? Or how
No,
is
it's
that?
different because a Director of Educational Services will be able to evaluate teachers
Okay,
and also act in a role of principal and give discipline legally from,
okay.
without any assistance from any other administrator.
So basically
A vice
administrator.
principal,
Yeah.
administrator, yeah, it's administrator, yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Mr. Wright's here.
We have administrator comments this evening, so I would like to ask for comments, and I'll give Mrs. Cavarino time to think about what she might want to say, and I'll ask Mr. Wright first and put him on the spot.
Really no new information from last week. Just continuing to do what we do over the summer, just prepare for next school year. Have more information next month.
Mr. Wright, they are having some kind of champions event in Newcastle, and we'll be.
July 1st.
We gave information to our champions that they asked us, so some of the track and football and cross country. I wanted to mention that, we forgot to mention. Thank you.
Ms. Cavarino.
We have some high school students who are currently taking some summer school classes, so they are about a week and a half under their belt, so that's good. And we are gearing up for the elementary summer school, so looking forward to hosting, I believe, between 80 and 90 elementary students here in the next 2 weeks. So it'll be good.
Can I have one before we
Yes, you
leave?
may.
I'd like to say that I'd like to thank the board for hiring Mrs. Cavarino as administrator. I think that you had to pick someone who deserves it and has done a lot already for the school district. It's Mrs. Cavarino, so thank you very much for the students and staff of adding her to the administrative roles.
Okay. And do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Mr. Curry, Mr. Dawson, all those in favor, motion passes.
There's one on sign there, get out of the way.
Yeah, right.